It's the game that everybody in this state, whether you like basketball or you don't like basketball, has been waiting for. Yeah, that's right. It is Indiana-Purdue rivalry weekend for Mike Woodson and his 21st ranked Hoosiers. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Behind the Basket. I'm Evan Kamikow, joined, as always, by Hank Joseph. Hank, we're back, and what a week this is going to be.
Yeah, great to be back on. And tomorrow, after last year's game especially, I feel like we've been waiting for this since last January. So we're all just happy it's here.
And then one last year, but we're going to talk about that in a second. Let's take a look at how the Hoosiers have fared and where they are right now. Earlier this week, Mike Woodson's squad traveled to College Park, Maryland to take on the Terrapins. Well, fans were at full force at Xfinity Center. This game would be back and forth for about the first 30 minutes, give or take. Indiana out in the early transition. Malik Renew going to drive to the basket, finds Caleb Banks down low. Look at that. Gets the should have been and one. Indiana leads up to 7. Here we go. Maryland now up 1. Julian Reese finds a wide open Ian Martinez. Nothing but net. Terps starting to pull away. Second half now. Dante Scott gets out of trouble, passing to Jameer Young, getting the step back 3 to go over Galloway. Young had 20 on the night, leading the Terps to a 66-55 upset over Indiana. So, Hank, we've talked about this already. This Indiana team, they struggled really bad. What was most surprising in that game?
What was most surprising was the lack of rebounding. Evan, obviously the loss of Jordan Geronimo for the time being has been, about as bad as I think anybody could have predicted. Caleb Banks has came in and given some positive minutes, but you could tell Indiana was completely outmatched on the glass last game. Maryland missed a lot of open shot attempts, very similar to what we saw in the Wisconsin game, but the rebounding was crucial, and the reason Indiana lost by 11.
And we were talking about this a little bit earlier. Jalen Hood-Schifino was 1 of 14 on the floor. If that's probably my biggest takeaway. We'll just jump right into the next question. If your starting guard is 1 of 14 and doesn't get his first basket till 3 minutes left to go?
At 3:48.
3:48. How are you going to win? How are you going to play the number 1 team in the country if you're starting point guard? Because you're not going to have Xavier Johnson. Newsflash for everybody at home.
Certainly.
He will not be playing.
Yeah.
But then again, if I say that and he plays, I look like an idiot.
Evan, here's the thing. How do you win? You don't win. You don't win that game because, unfortunately, he is the best shooter on this team. That's it. It's plain and simple. It doesn't matter who's healthy, who's not healthy. Jalen Hood-Schifino is the best player, not the best scorer. I'll give that to Trace. But when he's off, as we said earlier in the season, if he goes, the team goes. So when Jalen Hood-Schifino shoots the ball so poorly, there's just no shot that Indiana has to stay in this game.
And he wasn't creating for Miller. He's not creating for Galloway. Tamar Bates also pretty much were just duds in this game.
Yeah, only 4 assists and 55 points. Pretty clearly, the ball was not moving around enough and just turning the ball over. Indiana, they didn't force a turnover for Maryland until, I'd say, about 5 minutes left in the first half, whereas they, of course, had 6 in the first 5 minutes. So, it's got to be more production on the offensive end, and defensively, you just have to rebound the basketball, especially against, I don't know, you heard of this guy?
No.
Zach Edey?
No, I think we're going to talk about him in a minute,
okay,
though. I think we are.
Good.
Because that sounds really familiar. But even to your point, Malik Renew fouled out of the game. They turned the ball over 12 times. Again, you can't have one of your centers fouling out when you don't have a guy like Jordan Geronimo and you don't know what Caleb Banks is going to bring to this team, especially against a guy who's coming up named Zach Edey. Well, everyone who watches our show knows what we think of Indiana. Let's take a look at the opponent for this week. Number 1 overall, Purdue took on Penn State as the first 23 minutes were neck and neck. Penn State up too early, and this guy, we've talked about him already, Hank. Zach Edey knocking a defender down, getting it to go. Edey finished with 18 points and a tough blow for Penn State there. To the second half now we go. Edey again, but this time finds Mason Gillis for the wide open 3. Gillis had a career-high 29 points off the bench. Purdue, they're running away with this one. Later in the second, Brendan Smith just says, Edey's down there somewhere and slams it home. Purdue wins big 80-60, your final score. Here's Indiana head coach Mike Woodson on what makes Purdue so good.
You got playing with 2 freshmen and a big guy in the middle. That says a lot. Matt has done a great job with his ball club. They say you can't win with freshmen, a lot of times in college basketball, but they're proving that, they belong and they're in a system that fits them and they're playing well.
They belong. Those freshmen belong, but it's the big guy in the middle that Woodson referred to. Starting off, how the heck do you defend Zach Edey? Because I sure as beep, don't know.
I love what he says. They have a system that fits them. They have Zach Edey, who you build the system around. This guy, Evan, has continuously gotten better every single season he's played. Obviously, the front runner for, player of the year, I think, on the last odds that I saw, I think he was like minus 300. And that was after Trace had 3 games in a row of nearly having 20 and 20.
Yeah.
So, look, you don't stop him. It's so cliche to say, but you have to try and contain him. If Indiana wants a chance, with Zach Edey on or off the floor, they have to try and get him into foul trouble. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about him. You cannot stop him. You double team him, he'll pass it to, I don't know, any guy on Purdue that can shoot the 3, because they always have guys that can shoot.
Fletcher Lawyer, Brendan Smith, Gillies,
and Fletcher Lawyer, freshman Fletcher Lawyer, who plays like it's his 5th year on the team. I mean, he's so cool, calm, and collected. We say it all the time about Jalen Ochefino. Same goes for Fletcher Lawyer. A little bit undersized, but guy can put the ball in the hoop. So you don't stop Edey. It stinks, but you just don't.
No, not at all. But what Indiana has to do is you have to contain Edey, like you said, get him into foul trouble. They did that last year. Edey wasn't on the court a lot of that game last year, and people forget that. He was great, but Trace Jackson-Davis outplayed him that game.
Certainly.
And TJ didn't really play that well during that actual game. Now, how do you contain your outside guys? The defense is there. We've seen this defense. If they play like they did against Ohio State, this is a game Indiana runs away with. If they play like they did against Maryland, it's going to be a long afternoon. So what's going to be your key for Indiana to win this game?
Wow. I mean, I said the problem in the Maryland game was rebounding. This one is going to be far harder because Zach Edey, I don't know, what is he, 7'4"?
Yeah, about 7'3".
And look, your best rebounder is 6'9". So at the end of the day, Trace Jackson-Davis has to prove that he came back here for, more reasons than just getting better and trying to win whatever he said, the Big Ten or whatever. He needs to beat Purdue for a second time because he has to go off in this game. Sorry, I've gotten a little bit sidetracked. And Jalen Ochefino, hey, you're going to have to make some big-time shots.
Welcome to the Big Ten, kid.
Yeah, hey, last time he played in Assembly Hall, he was 5 for his first 5 from 3?
Yes, he was.
Going to have to do something very similar in this game. Indiana has to get a lead early and hold on to it, which, when they get a lead, you hold your breath.
And you saw last year, Jaden Ivey clanked it off the basket right at the end, right after that rob shot. But here's the biggest thing, and I'm gonna say it's gonna be shooting. Your shooting has to be on par with Purdue. Fletcher Lawyer goes out there, puts up 13+ points a night. Brendan Smith goes out there, puts up 9+ points a night. If one of Galloway, Miller Kopp, or Tamar Bates can get going and shoot and keep up with them, because defensive down low is gonna be a battle. I think that's how Indiana wins.
I really thought with how poor Indiana was shooting in the Maryland game, I really thought that Tamar Bates was going to have an opportunity to play a lot of ISO ball because Maryland's a tough defending team and Indiana didn't have anything going. So I expected Tamar Bates to really do something in that game. Didn't. And look, Purdue is going to do what every good defense does against Indiana. They're going to zone and they're going to press. So Indiana, if they're starting their offense with 18, 20 seconds left on the shot clock like they've been doing in their last 2 losses, hey, the script's out there, okay? The script how to beat Indiana, it's not hard. It's very simple. Play zone defense and press, and it is, hold their transition. Indiana didn't have any transition last game. They're going to have to get out and run. Edey is not fast. He's a lot of things. Evan Fast is not one of them. So speed can kill if Indiana can get out in transition and Trace continues to handle the ball the way.
So do we want to make predictions, or are we just going to skip and wrap up?
Let's make a prediction.
Indiana's going to win it.
I like that.
I'm going with the Hoosiers at home. I think they get it by 2.
Okay, yeah, I agree with you there. I think they'll win by maybe 5 or 6. A couple late fouls at the end.
So this is the first time we've ever both gone with Indiana on one show. So either we're going to look really smart this weekend, or we're going to look really dumb.
All I know is that last year was, the greatest college basketball experience of my personal life. I was one of the first, maybe like 20, 25 people on the court last year storming it. So you can find me in some of the pictures if you guys want to check it out. Hit him up
as Barstool, Indiana. Well, that's going to do it for Behind the Basket, our episode for Purdue. To our great crew of Andrew Briggs, that's Hank Joseph, I'm MBB Kamikow. Will Indiana take down the #1 team in the country, the Purdue Boilermakers? Well, tune into the game 4 o'clock today to find out on ESPN. Thanks. We'll see you guys later.